Greetings. My name is Fae Johnstone, and I'm the Executive Director of the Society of Queer Momentum. We are a national queer advocacy organization founded to accelerate social and gender justice for 2SLGBTQIA+ people in Canada. I want to begin by sharing my appreciation to Senator McBean and Senator Cormier for supporting our presence at this podium today, and more broadly thanking the Canadian Pride Caucus and allied parliamentarians for continuing to listen to and uplift the voices of queer and trans communities in both the House of Commons and in the Senate. Now, on to the purpose of our time together today. Over the last 4 years, we've seen a tidal shift on 2SLGBTQIA+ issues in Canada. After 2 decades of progress towards freedom, rights, and equality for our communities, we have entered a period of backlash. Far-right activists, aided by certain politicians and a powerful anti-LGBT lobby, are spreading disinformation, sowing division, and normalizing hate using a radical agenda developed in Florida and Texas. Statistics Canada paints a concerning picture, with hate-motivated violence towards our communities continuing to rise. The Canadian Security Intelligence Service has warned the emergent anti-gender movement poses a threat of extreme violence in Canada. We cannot and we must not underestimate the threat that these hate movements present to the rights, the freedom, and indeed the safety of LGBTQ+ Canadians. Already, our community members, inclusive of parents and allies, risk being targeted for speaking up and living as our true selves, and for fighting back against hate. 3 provincial governments in this country, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and New Brunswick, are regressing on our issues. They're turning their backs on 2SLGBTQIA+ constituents and overriding our charter-protected rights and freedoms, limiting our access to healthcare that we need. The leader of Canada's Conservative Party, who is well-positioned to become the next Prime Minister, has echoed homophobic and transphobic dog whistles and sympathies that would restrict the freedom, the rights, and the inclusion of LGBTQ Canadians, such as myself. Instead of dealing with the big issues facing Canadians, like the housing crisis, the cost of living, the state of our healthcare and education systems, these far-right groups are pushing an insidious agenda. They're trying to bring a culture war to Canada that Canadians neither want nor need. Underneath their misleading slogans is an attempt to turn Canadians against ourselves and change who we are as a people. They want us to turn against the things that make Canada special, our respect for diversity and our shared belief in universal human rights. While they may target transgender people, we are not deceived. Their true agenda is to advance policies that at their core are about controlling our bodies, restricting our freedoms, and re-entrenching discrimination, all while removing the checks and balances on state power that keep minority groups safe from governments restricting those rights and freedoms. They want to create a Canada that serves their best interests and that keeps people like them in power at the expense of the rest of us. But here's the thing. We as Canadians who believe in human rights, respect diversity, and dream of a more free and equal Canada, we will not let them get away with it. Our communities are defiant in the face of hate, and our movements, inclusive of feminist groups, labor groups, anti-racist groups, and all Canadians who believe in a more free and equal future are speaking up. In the face of adversity and in the face of regression, we are drawing a line in the sand alongside thousands of people across this country. That's why, in response to the shifting social and political environment, we are launching the largest national 2SLGBTQI+ advocacy campaign that this country has seen in over 20 years. From May 11th to 17th, we are leading a national Rainbow Week of Action, featuring 18 rallies in big cities and small towns all across this country, and dozens of related events. Together with workers, with parents, with feminists, and everyday Canadians who believe in freedom and equality, we are taking to the streets and speaking our truth to power. My call to action for governments and politicians and our movement's demand is for these politicians, these governments, to reject hate and advance rainbow equality. Because in fact, a more free and equal Canada is a better Canada for all of us. We are calling on those in this building, on this hill, and in legislatures across this country to speak up with us, to join a rally in their community, and to do whatever they can to defend a more free and equal Canada, to advance rainbow equality and support the inclusion of 2S LGBTQI+ people in every part of our society. Equally, we are asking Canadians to speak up with us, to urge their member of parliament to reject hate and commit to rainbow equality. If you want to add your voice to our call to action, you can visit www.rainbowequality.ca. Send a letter to your MP and RSVP for a rally in your community. Together, we will reject this culture war before it can even begin. We will reject hatred and division, and we will get Canada back on track in our journey towards a more inclusive, a more free and equal future for queer people, for women, for racialized Canadians, for workers, indeed, for everyone. So I invite you to join us as we lift up our voices and take to the streets for a better tomorrow. I would now like to invite my good friend, Tyler Boyce, the Executive Director of the Enchanté Network, to share some remarks.
All right. Thank you, Faye. And today I'm here. My name is Tyler Boyce. I'm the Executive Director of the Enchanté Network. We are Canada's largest network of two-spirit, queer, and trans organizations. We unite the sector, 300 2SLGBTQIA+ organizations from coast to coast to coast that are providing life-saving services in their community. Being there for people who otherwise don't have the tailored services available to them for miles and miles and miles. And today, we're uniting across this country with our member organizations, like our friends like Faye at the Society of Queer Momentum, to speak up for rainbow equality. Hate is not a partisan issue. No Canadian in this country deserves to feel like they can't leave their house in safety. No worker in this country needs to feel like they can't go to work in safety. But unfortunately today, due to politicians putting us, our communities, my loved ones, as wedge issues in a broader culture war that, like Faye said, Canadians no longer need nor deserve. Folks in my community, our member organizations across the country, don't feel safe to go into work because of their identity. We've seen how fascism and racism and the worst parts of society can be amplified when folks don't speak out. And that's why today organizations are banding together around the country to speak up for rainbow equality. And our call to action at the Enchanté Network is for you to get involved in the movement building work that is happening all around you. Today is not the moment for you to stand back and hope that someone else does it. Today is the moment for you to stand up for what it means to be a Canadian, what it means to exist in a country built on a certain set of principles that we all agree to. The principles of human rights, the principles of safety, the shared values that you can live up to your potential. This is for queer people, for trans people, for religious communities, for women, for Black people. We know the world that's possible when we work together for equality, and we're asking you to get involved in the movement building work happening all around you and get involved with rainbow equality. Thank you so much.
Hi, good morning. My name is Natasha Murdoch, and I'm the mother of a trans woman, as well as the chapter lead of pflag Ottawa. As a mother, my main priority is the safety and well-being of my child. I'm here today at the risk of mine and my family's privacy because I'm tired, frightened, and frankly angry that my child and her community are the focus of a misinformation campaign that is creating a culture of fear and hate here in Canada. This misinformation campaign has pitted parents against parents, parents against children, and caused schools to become even more unsafe for trans, gender diverse, and 2S LGBTQI+ students. These groups claiming to protect parents' rights do not protect the rights of all parents. Because of the spread of misinformation, parents like me in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and New Brunswick do not have the right to seek life-saving care for their children. Hostility towards 2S LGBTQI+ children and youth in schools, on public transit, in shopping centers, in rec centers, everywhere is on the rise. Open bullying and harassment towards 2S LGBTQI+ people, both online and in real life, seems to be the norm. Death threats and doxing seem to be completely acceptable ways to deal with differences of opinion. That's not okay. Violence against trans and gender diverse people, particularly trans women, is an epidemic. And as the mother of a trans woman, every time my child leaves the house, I worry that this could be the time she does not come home. Talk to parents of trans and gender diverse people, and what binds us together is the persistent worry that it is not an if, but a when we will receive the late night knock on the door that every parent fears. I grew up believing Canadians are compassionate and understanding, that despite our differences, we can still gather around the kitchen table, chat, share stories, have our disagreements, but still walk away friends. I speak now to Canadian parents. We are all different, and our children are all different, and that is a good thing. If we take the time to understand, to talk to each other, to listen, we can create a Canada in which all our children feel accepted, safe, and can thrive. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lauren Ravon. I'm the Executive Director of Oxfam Canada. Oxfam is a global organization working in 80 countries. Our mission is to fight inequality to end poverty and injustice. We firmly believe that we can only overcome poverty if we respect and uplift the human rights of everyone. Around the world, LGBTI people are facing discrimination that increases their likelihood of living in poverty. LGBTI people have less access to education, higher unemployment rates, and less access to adequate housing, health services, and financial services. This is true in Canada and in every single country where Oxfam works. Across all continents, we are witnessing a rising tide of hate and violence that is pushing LGBTI people further into the margins. Oxfam is a feminist organization, and our feminism is resolutely trans-inclusive. Globally, anti-rights movements are on the rise, and attacks against trans people are growing. In many countries, we are seeing populist leaders stoke fear, allow total impunity for violent crimes against trans people, and strip trans people of their legal rights. Politicians are using homophobic and transphobic rhetoric for political gain. The same goes for attacks on bodily integrity. We are seeing attacks on women's reproductive rights, and the limiting of access to safe abortion go hand in hand with efforts to reinforce traditional gender norms and police gender diverse people. Of course, misogyny, homophobia, and transphobia are expressions of hate and intolerance, but they can also be diversion tactics to keep people from being outraged by the extreme concentration of wealth and the political capture that keeps more and more people trapped in poverty. While public discourses zoom in on women, queer, and trans people's bodies, we turn our attention away from ballooning economic inequality, corporate monopoly power, and rules that are rigged in favor of the ultra-wealthy. Thankfully, around the world, we are also seeing communities standing in solidarity to push back against harmful social norms, regressive policies and laws, and divisive political rhetoric that stoke hate and division. For example, Oxfam is supporting the Gay Alliance of Ukraine to document homophobic attacks on the LGBTQI community by militarized groups, but also help these communities that are displaced by war settle into their new communities and build support networks. In Cambodia, we work with LGBTQI artists to change perceptions around sexual orientation and gender identity and expression through theater, film, and the visual arts. More than ever, we need to build bridges across groups that are fighting oppression and marginalization to turn this tide of rising hate, poverty, and violence. This is the way to build a more equal future for all of us, all together. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Larry Rousseau, and I'm the Executive Vice President of the Canadian Labour Congress, representing 3 million workers across Canada, as well as 500,000 retirees. And on behalf of workers across Canada, all workers, we would like to say that we are particularly proud of the role that unions have played historically in advancing the rights of LGBTQIA individuals across this country, and we will continue to do so. It is truly unfortunate that we can see attacks against one or one group when we know that an attack against one is an attack against all. We will continue to stand to defend the rights of all queer, trans, and non-conforming gender individuals across the country to make sure that everyone feels safe. Parents have rights, that is true, and so do children. And we want to make sure that children who are part of workers' families, by the way, have the right to feel safe and secure no matter where they are. So on behalf, again, of all workers across Canada, we stand in solidarity in the coming week, Rainbow Week of Action, to say that we will stand up against all politicians and all people who, through ignorance and fear and hate, will try to divide Canadians and divert us from the true issues that we need to see occur in this country. That is, everyone who is treated equally and has equal rights in this country to be themselves. Bonjour, je m'appelle Larry Rousseau, je suis le vice-président exécutif du Congrès du travail du Canada. Et au nom de 3 millions de nos membres, ainsi que 500 000 retraités, nous nous tenons debout pour dire que nous allons continuer à défendre les droits de toutes les personnes qui sont trans, qui sont membres de la communauté LGBTQ, pour dire que une attaque contre une personne ou un groupe, c'est une attaque contre tous. Et ça, on ne l'acceptera jamais. À tous les politiciens au pays qui voudront, par l'ignorance, par la haine, par la colère, vouloir nous diviser, nous allons dire non. Nous nous tenons debout contre ces attaques et nous allons défendre le droit de toute personne de pouvoir s'épanouir, vivre et s'exprimer librement dans un pays libre et démocratique. Merci beaucoup.
I am now happy to open the floor to any questions.
If you have a question on Zoom, please use the raise hand function. This concludes the press conference. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay, well done.
Thank you so much.